Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Hello and welcome to episode 254 of the AFTN podcast. I am Carl Robinson lookalike Joe Deasy. I am joined by the voice of TSS Rovers and UBC Soccer. He knows where the exits are at all times, Gideon Hill.
Sure, welcome lads.
And opposite me, FIFA scandal FBI informant Nicolaas Rupprecht.
Hello.
The less we say about that, the better,
yes.
I think. Gentlemen, if you could buy Carl Robinson a gift after that terrible draw with LA last weekend, what would it be? Gideon.
I would buy him one of those professional cuddlers because he probably needed a hug after that game because of how tough it was and that they didn't get what they wanted.
Is that like the pillow you put in your bed that like you can... It's like a body pillow? Or
Enemy girl. We need a Photoshop of that.
Yeah, we'll get on that for next week. Nick?
I would get him a copy of Football Manager because that game trolls the hell out of you.
Yeah, those kind of games happen a lot in Football Manager. I would, in honor of the late great Stephen Hawking, who passed away last week, I would get him a brief history of time because, as Stephen Hawking would say, space and time are the same thing, and Carl Robinson really needs to understand how to use space and time.
Ooh.
So there's my really roundabout gift for Carl Robinson. Well, right before we move on to the preview part of the show, which is what this show is all about, we're going to do a quick roundup of the last week's game against LA. In our own unique way, we play a game called Complete the Sentences. The first sentence is, I would rather blank than watch that LA game again. Gideon, what would you rather do than watch the LA game again?
I would rather make dinner than watch the LA game again.
Okay.
That's something I don't like doing a whole lot.
We're learning more about you, Gideon. Nick?
I actually said cook a nice meal.
Oh,
so similar wavelength.
Wow, that's a coincidence.
Similar wavelength.
I would rather watch Ireland play in a friendly than watch that LA game again. If anyone who's watched Ireland play in a friendly will know how bad that is. Sentence number 2. I would have blank to change the game against LA. So what kind of a change would you have made to have influenced the game that you think Robbo didn't do?
I would say less crosses. More to the feet.
It was very frustrating to see them just head the ball
How many
away.
did they waste? Like 30?
Yeah,
or
something like that. Gideon?
I said I would have played Tybert. Changed the game against LA.
Okay, we'll discuss that later. The whole Tybert thing. Okay. I would have brought on Blundell earlier to change the game against LA. Kamara looked like dead to me. Like he looked knackered really. Okay. Third sentence. Perry Kitchen is the American blank. I wrote Arturo Vidal because the amount of times he brought down Davies was nuts. Nicholas?
Because he played in Scotland, Graham Souness.
Okay. Gideon?
I said Perry Kitchen is the American warrior because he went from questionable in the game to a very solid player for LA.
Okay, very good. Perry Kitchen is American, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
American,
I didn't get that wrong. Good. All right, so let's move on to what this show is all about. Previewing. So this weekend, the Caps are taking on Columbus at 3 o'clock on Saturday in Columbus, possibly for the last time, sadly.
Hashtag save the crew.
Save the crew. Columbus are top of the East. I did not see that coming at all. What do you guys think? Is that something you predicted, given that they lost Meram, they lost Ola Kamara, they lost Kakuta Mane? It's a bit of a shock, no?
Yeah, I think it's not expected, but then they do have a system in place. And it seems that they try to find pieces for their system, which we'll, I assume, talk about more in depth later.
They do have a very well-defined system. Berhalter has his own stamp on that team, right? That is really impressionable. Gideon, did you see this Columbus resurgence, I guess, happening? They're tied for first in the East with New York.
Yeah, it's hard. I definitely didn't see it coming for sure. I'll say that, but I think honestly they've deserved it after a year last year they made the playoffs, but they've had ups and downs with the Kamara thing a couple years ago, and it's just been here and there for them. So I think it's good. They deserve to be where they are right now, and I think Berhalter has implemented a system as he started. He hasn't changed it, and that's why they're finding success, I feel like.
If they do move to Austin, and no one really knows for sure what the finer details of that are going to be, right? What do you think structurally that will imply? The players will carry over, the manager will carry over? Will the whole structure just be dug out of the ground in Columbus and moved over? Or what do you think would be a better way to implement that, even though it's already a basket game?
I think if you look at the history of franchises that have moved, I believe the Quakes moved to Houston at one point. Yeah, so it's not unheard of in MLS for that to happen. And if I remember correctly, they had a lot of success after moving from San Jose.
Something I've seen on Twitter is comparing Columbus's attendances to other teams' attendances, and they're not at the top, but they're not at the dead bottom either, right? Mm-hmm. Gideon, you think it's we know a lot about kind of pre-court now and all that kind of the stuff that was in the deal when he wanted to own Columbus. What do you think must be going through those fans' minds right now?
I think for the fans, you gotta take one game at a time and one season at a time. You can't be always nervous about the next year what's going to happen, because then you're going to miss all the fun and going to games during the year. I think for me personally, as a fan watching MLS, that's what I would do. I mean, it'd be tough because you love your team, you've been passionate for so long, they've been in the league for a long time. So, I mean, in that sense, it'd be sad, but you got to just keep one eye on the present as well, and just focus on the games, I feel like.
Yeah, just really quickly, everyone's discussed this topic a lot. I don't think we can bring anything new to the discussion, but from your own personal point of view, a big moral affliction that people have is, it's Columbus's probably their last year in Columbus. Do you go to the games and give money to Precourt, or do you boycott the games and let Precourt kind of reinforce his point, right? It's really kind of a tricky thing. Just in a couple sentences, what do you think you would do if you were in Columbus fans' shoes?
If I was in their shoes, I think I would go to the games. Okay. I think part of the argument, obviously, if you're trying to move the team, is that it's not wanted here, or there's not a market for it. That's a big running argument that this person, you can have. So I think it's important to go out and show support and show that it's not a dead city. Yeah. It's not a dead sport. To you, or that's how I would feel about it. Okay. Gideon, what do you think?
Go to the games. If you've been supporting them for years, boycotting a season won't really do much, because, you'll miss out on all what you've built the past 2 years with fans and friends at the stadium. Yeah.
I recognize that it's kind of a difficult spot, but I would also go to the games, I think. And, if Columbus keep playing like they've been playing at the start of the season, it could be a memorable one, albeit probably maybe the last one. I'm sure there'll be more developments on that story as the season goes by, but I think we all three of us here stand behind the Save the Crew movement. Mm-hmm. But let's focus on the game. It's why these two teams exist. It's all about the entertainment. Just to recap Columbus's start to the season, as we said, they've started really well. 3 wins and a draw, and they're undefeated. They beat TFC 2-0 on opening day. which I really enjoyed. I did watch the game. What, like TFC hangover or Columbus, showing what, like, where their standing is in the league, or a little bit of both?
Probably a little bit of both from my end, because I know that TFC has been really focusing on the CONCACAF Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
It seems they've been playing their first team there and then playing reserves on their other games, for lack of a better word. And Columbus took advantage of that. They came in with a really smart game plan, I believe, during that game, making sure that there was no release valves for TFC, closing them down when they needed to, but dropping back when necessary. So I think they played it quite smart in that first game.
Gideon?
Yeah, I think, I want to give credit to Columbus because we'll talk about this in a second, but their signings, they've had a good offseason, quietly one of the best in MLS, but I think honestly it's just TFC hangover. They made quite a couple late signings. They signed a Ketchday and Aro, I think, late on in the transfer window, late on right before the season, so I think they started that game and they didn't really, have a great game, and I think just as a team, it's hard to come back and after a winning year and think you're going to be the best team in the league, and you come out on opening day and fall flat and don't even score a goal, even with a full lineup as well. So I think Nick is right in that sense. The Champions League did play a factor, but again, it's just TFC after the year last year.
Yeah, well, they'll take the 3 points, Columbus, I'm sure, and that's like one of their most difficult games out of the way too. In that game, like, Zardes looked really, really sharp. He was one of their big acquisitions in the offseason. They did have to give up Ola Kamara, but by all accounts, Ola Kamara wanted to go to LA. He's looked so good so far. He's like 3 goals so far, leading goal scorer in the team. He really needed a change after LA. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
After playing...
Does he still want to stay there, though, with Zlatan?
Who, Kamara? Yeah. Oh.
Ola.
Yeah.
Or do Zardes want to go back because of Zlatan?
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Zlatan and Zardes, the two Z's.
Yeah.
Zardes is only 26 years old. That kind of surprised me. Like, in my mind, he was a little bit older, but I still think Ali Ghazal is like in his 30s, but apparently he's also like 26.
Remember, 26 is the new 40 or whatever.
Exactly. I'll be 26 in a couple of years. Okay, Zardes looks good. You think their main threat is Zardes, given his form right now?
I think, I mean, he's obviously banging in the goals, but I think it's the system that's around him.
That's true, yeah.
The wingers, Higuain, who can hit a ball like anybody else in this league. And he's been around for quite some time now, too. I mean, he's, 33? I think
he must be up there.
He's getting up there. And
I'm going to stop saying players' ages because I've gotten some. He's one of the older players.
And who else do they have that can hit a ball? They have
Pedro Santos has started the season really well. He's on the website I was using. He was rated their best player so far. Playing off the right wing. I think his final ball was the issue last season, but I think he's cleaning that up a little bit. And their backline too, right?
Their backline and their mids.
Yeah.
D mids are fantastic. I mean, you have Artur who came in last year, and he's been a fantastic defensive player. I think this year he's almost had, when I looked it up, some stats, he had like 5 tackles per 90, which is quite good. And I mean that's his job, is to win balls and then get it over to Will Trapp, who can pick a pass.
Gideon, the main threat on this Columbus team, or is it more of the system that we were talking about?
Yeah, it's definitely the system. I think they haven't signed a player that's, going to be the best player in the team. They've signed players that are going to be strong together, and they're not a one-player team. They're a team that has good defense, good midfield, good build-up, and a good attacking core as well. Yeah,
we talked a little bit about the depth of the team. We haven't even mentioned Will Trapp.
I did.
Oh, you did. Will Trapp and Arthur. Nick is not part of the collective we, which is me and Gideon. Their backline looks great. Harrison Aful, who is a great player. Valenzuela, left back. Lalas Abubakar and Jonathan Mensah. Mensah...
They've been getting better, though.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. Mensah has a mistake in him.
Yes. I think both of them have shown serious mental lapses.
But they're a unit, right? They're a back four. They're not a group of individual defenders, right? They work very well together.
Yeah. I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they do tend to give away a lot of silly fouls and things that are kind of unnecessary.
My lasting image of Jonathan Mensah is standing over someone that he just tripped while complaining to the referee. That was no way was that a yellow card. That's like my mental image of Jonathan Mensah. Gideon, any thoughts on this like system that we talk about? Like it's a 4-2-3-1, and they counterattack fast and they're powerful.
And they push up a lot of numbers as well.
Yeah.
And they like to play through the width, like their fullbacks and their wingers.
Gideon, any insight on that? On that system?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give a bit of insight on their squad as well, because I was doing the prep for the show and I noticed that they signed it. Basically, they changed 4 players for 4 players that were equal or better. So they got Valenzuela a DP deal for Waylon Francis, who's now in Seattle and has not played that much. They kind of got Zach Steffen, who was a backup last year, played a little bit over Steve Clark, and now Clark is gone. Steffen's pretty seamlessly gotten into the goalkeeper role. Zardes comes in. He kind of replaced Kamara for sure. Like, that's not a doubt about that. And then they re-signed Will Trapp. They signed, forget his name, Sosa, and then they lost Mira Mandane. So that is honestly one of the quietest off-season in the league, but one of the best for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why those big players like Kamara and Miriam wanted to leave. Do you think it had anything to do with the moving to Austin next year thing, or
it could be that, I think, but it could also be when you start putting up numbers when you're in a system.
Yeah,
it can be that you start to believe your own hype, in a sense, maybe. Right?
But Miriam's a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Not only was he one of the former "Do You Know Who I Am's," he also had a great postseason. Really deep team. You know, like I was looking at their roster, like just good depth everywhere. It's kind of the model that MLS teams should kind of follow, no? And successful postseasons and things like that. They have been playing well. Just to finish up their
they play a fun brand of soccer for sure.
Good to watch for a change. Just to finish up the other games that they played this season, they beat Montreal 3-2 at home, which was a great result. They drew 0-0 with Philly in Philly, and then last week they beat DC United 3-1. And high scoring games, and they seem to be on the right end of it most of the time.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that I would say is that Montreal game, they were dominant for like the first 20-30 minutes. And then they kind of stepped off the gas and stopped being as aggressive as, they really should have been. And that allowed Montreal to get back into the game, because after that, when I watched that game, I felt that Montreal dominated after that, 30-minute mark, 20-30-minute mark. So I think the question is, I guess, in the last 2 games, obviously they've shown their mentality. They've been able to come back, and they were able to come back in that game too. So it seems like it's a team that even when perhaps they shouldn't be winning, they're able to find a way to win.
Anything to add to that, Gideon?
No, I think for sure what I have written down here is that they are fantastic results for a team that wasn't expecting to probably win more than one of those games. Philadelphia away, they're not having the best start. Montreal at home, probably winnable game. DC, for sure, but Toronto, I don't think. Like we said, it was kind of a shock. But again, a great start to the year for them. Not take nothing away. They haven't lost in 4 games, so a big test for the Caps on Saturday.
Who do you think is favorites for the game on Saturday?
Oh, I think Columbus could do it.
Unfortunately, I think so too. Gideon?
Yeah, I think Columbus will do it, as the Caps have had a great record there in the past few years, but I think it's Columbus' time to shine.
But stylistically speaking, the Caps, we all know how they're going to set up, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about it more later as far as personnel goes, but style-wise, we know how they're going to set up.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of how Columbus would attack that kind of style, and then I just thought, Whitecaps are the kind of team Columbus hate playing
against. Yeah, I mean,
they
that's
can't
true.
find the space. Like Zardes isn't passy like finish kind of a player. He's like a break forward and one-on-one with the keeper and see what you can do kind of a player, right? Do you think if Robbo tried to play for a draw, he would probably get that draw? Do you think so?
Yeah, I mean, I could even see the Whitecaps winning, especially considering how aggressive Columbus is as a team and how far forward, they can push up their fullbacks.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that whole, hey, if you can isolate Davies one-on-one, and against one of those center backs, Mensah, might get a red card.
It could happen.
It could happen. That could be.
Yeah. We'll talk a bit more about the Caps game plan, or what we think the Caps game plan should be, pretty soon.
You feel me? And we ain't got no basketball team. We ain't got no football team. So everything's yellow. Columbus Crew swag, baby. Yeah. Yellow gold, yellow shoes, yellow beach, Columbus Crew. Yellow diamonds, I want a yellow coupe. Yellow swag, Columbus Crew. Yellow swag, Columbus Crew. Yeah, yellow swag, Columbus Crew.
Hi, I'm Alphonso Davies, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN podcast, episode 254. We're previewing Columbus away on Saturday, just in case you didn't know. There might be curling on before the game or something that might interfere with the TSN feed, but hey, that happens. And now it's time for my favorite part of the show. Do you know who I am? Okay, gentlemen, do you know who I am? Again, my favorite part of the show.
Deasy.
That is me. So, for those of you who don't know how this works, I give clues about a player. After every round of clues, each player can have a guess. They have to say stop if they want to guess. And the first person to get it wins. I believe the season standings are 3-1 to Gideon, right?
I'm losing here.
Don't let it get to your head, Gideon, okay? It's a long season. We'll probably do, 35 of these preview shows? It's really going to add up. Okay, I've upped the difficulty level because Gideon has been royally pissing me off by getting these way too early. So
that's not good for me.
Okay, here we go. Clue number 1. Oh, actually, I've taken some stuff away from some regular clues I give. So I'm not giving you the birthplace this week, for instance.
Okay.
I was born on February 19th, 1983.
Okay.
And for people who ask why I give this clue, you can figure out the player's age if you know how to do math in your head. My last name translates to Little Forest in my language. No guesses.
I got nothing so far.
Okay. My last MLS team was New England.
Stop.
Gideon?
Christian Kofi?
No. Clue number 4. I've played in my native Asian country, Norway, Greece, Canada, and the US. I'm very pleased we've gotten this far this week.
Norway. Greece.
So, I've played in my native Asian country, Norway, Greece, Canada, and the USA. Okay, clue number 5. We've never made it this far. Well done, everybody. I was traded for a 4th round MLS draft pick to New England from Vancouver. Okay, clue number 6. I now play for Las Vegas Lights FC.
Oh, wow. I paid more attention to that game.
there was too much going on in that game.
That's true.
Anyway. Yeah, okay, alright.
Last clue. Oh my god, I can't believe it. I have 1 cap for Japan and 30 caps for appearances for the Whitecaps.
Stop.
Nick.
Diego Kobayashi?
Yes, it is Diego Kobayashi. Nick. Yeah, he was in that preseason game. He was actually part of that.
I did not know he played in Norway. Wow.
Yeah, he played for Stabæk.
Wow.
And
okay.
Then he played in
Greece?
Yeah, he played some weird team in Greece.
Nick, well done.
See, that in my mind when I thought of when I used this game, I thought this was more like what it would be. Well done, Nick. It's now 3-2.
Okay,
fantastic.
I thought you were gonna do the win again because I was confused with the 8.
Oh man, no, he can't double up.
Actually,
that would be cheating.
100% of the time that Nick wins the games, he pronounces the player's name wrong.
So that's what I gotta do. I just gotta be like,
Okay, very good.
Will Tarp.
Will Tarp. He covers more ground than a tarp, that's for sure. Okay, that was this week's Do You Know Who I Am? Okay, welcome back to the AFTN podcast, episode 254. We're going to look ahead now to the Caps side of things for the Columbus game away this Saturday. Quick question before we get into the details. Are the Caps meeting your expectations so far?
I would actually say they are exceeding expectations.
Okay.
I think as of today, as of recording, I think they're second in the West.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it's just the Western Conference this year is terrible.
Again.
But, I think considering the turnover that we had and the, I would have been happy simply with just a playoff spot, but I think second in the West is quite
a lot of teams have had a bye week, right? Like
that's true. That's true. There's not been some teams are have played only 2-3 games,
but the position is still valid.
The position is still valid. Yeah.
Gideon,
I think exceeding. Honestly, when have we had this good of a start to a season? Playing this many games away from home in the first month or so of the season.
Yeah.
I can't imagine or remember at this time where we've had, correct me if I'm wrong, but we haven't had 3 road games and 2 home games in the first month of the season and done this well and won 2 games.
Yeah, I do think it's gradually kind of not regressed to the mean, but the happiness of which I'm with the season, it's gone down a little bit. Like that Atlanta game, things that are out of our control or the Caps' control. Yeah. Then there was the home game against LA, really should have gotten 3 points.
Should have.
But, you shouldn't tarnish the results that were really good beforehand either, right? The game against Columbus was a huge result. Mm-hmm. And then the home opener as well, fantastic game, fantastic result. You guys both said you exceeded expectations. I'm going to go with they're matching my expectations as of right now. If they get more than a point in Columbus, I'll happily say that they're exceeding my expectations. They just need to correct what happened last weekend in my mind.
Yeah.
They need to make up for that in some way. And position wise in the conference, I know it's really early to be looking at this, but looking good, right?
Yeah.
Best player so far.
For me, either Kamara or Davies.
Okay.
But I would give I looked at the stats that they have or whatever, and I'm gonna have to go with Kamara, and I threw a lot of shade at him in the first preview, but gotta eat my words. He's 2 goals, 1 assist in 230 minutes or something like that.
Sounds right.
Sounds about right. And I looked at his stats for the aerials that he's won per 90 minute, and it's he's won 7.3 aerials.
A game?
A game.
Holy crap.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what the Whitecaps needed. Yeah. So, he's doing the dirty work that he needs to do, and he's getting rewarded for it. So, for me, that's the best player so far.
I would say Ismail Alpha. No, I'm kidding. Davies, for sure, for me, has been, he hasn't had a fantastic game since the Montreal game. I think he's been very good against Houston. He played very good against LA Atlanta. But, again, he's been our most, I guess you could say, even player. He's played even throughout the first 4 games, and he's been the player that's kind of stood out and hasn't had, a fantastic game, but again, he has not had a bad game, and he's been pretty even in that sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with both of those assessments. Those are the 2 front runners, right? But as far as someone who I didn't think would make as big of a impact or be as good as I thought, I think Aha looks pretty good. Jose Aha.
Oh yeah, he had a great game.
If his job is truly to replace Waston, then we have found a really good replacement. Mm-hmm. I think long term we could really see the benefits of that, especially with Parker's contract situation, right? How much we would have ended up paying rather than how much we gave up to get Aha. I think that was a very good deal. Good. So moving on, what from a tactics point of view, what does this team need to do to get the best out of Davies? Is there a formation that we've seen him? Is there a position that we've seen that makes him the best player that he can be? Or do you want to flip this on its heads and say we should not tweak our formation to get the best out of one player. Or we could go back to our favorite home and away discussion again if you want.
Yeah, I think for me to get the best out of Davies, you need to play him on the wing. I think. I mean, he's shown that he's very versatile, and that you could, I think you could. They've played him at left back recently, but I don't think you're getting the most bang for your buck if you're putting him in more defensive roles. Can he do them? Yes, sure.
Yes.
But when he gets out on the byline and he's beating you for pace and he's whipping in crosses, that's what he's fantastic at. And in a sense, it's really good for the system that we have because we have a counter-attacking system. And that really plays into his strengths of sitting deep. There's tons of space for him to run into. We have, hopefully, this year I feel like we've had better passers of the ball.
Yeah, it's
going long.
Been more ball to feet in some certain situations.
Yeah.
He leads the team for dribbles or is up there in the league for dribbles or something like that. I think Farhan tweeted something like that. Gideon, what do you think? Tactically, what can we do to get the best out of our most promising and arguably our best player?
Yeah, I think Nick hit the nail on the head with, we don't really need to choose information. We need to change the way we play in the sense that I think we have the right players to be alongside or behind Davies with De Jong. De Jong likes to push forward quite a bit. The reason I think that I'm touching on him is because I think he needs to stay back and let Davies go forward more because if we're going to find success with Davies, he needs to be more defensively responsible because when Davies is alone on that left side, he pushes forward quite a bit, leaving a big gap back there. So I think if we play forward the back with De Jong and behind Davies, that's when we're going to find the most success and get the most out of it.
From my perspective, there's something I would like to try. I'm not going to say it's going to fix all the problems, but just something I'd like to see Robbo try, and I think an away game is the perfect game to try this in. I would like to see Davies on the right with Nerwinski behind him. And my logic for this is, if Davies bombs forward, right, and that part of the field becomes stretched, our faster fullback is Nerwinski, who's on that side as well, who could get back if the whole team is pushed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Or you have two pace options. If Davies has the ball, he gets in a little bit of a rut. Nerwinski goes with his overlap, which he needs to start doing more of this season. And we have another fast player breaking forward, and we can get the ball to the byline or move on to the next phase of play. Just something I'd like to see tried. He's looked great on the left side. I'm not saying that's broken at all. I'm just saying that it's another option that we could look at because I think right wing has been our problem position this year. We can't find the right player to play there. Reina hasn't looked good there.
No.
Teixeira had an okay game.
At home.
At home, but he wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
He wasn't being really effective. He had so many balls over the top against LA, but he just didn't.
Yeah, but to be fair, we shouldn't be playing balls over the top to a guy who's
I think we mentioned that in a previous pod, and now I can't stop noticing when they play a long ball to Teixeira. They do it so often.
They do it way too.
It was our main route forward against LA.
Yeah, I know, but that's I think a problem with that game, which we probably should get into.
It's not our job.
It's
Sunday night. Listen to CITR radio for that take.
But I think that either the teams are giving us that option and saying, pass to this short guy. Go right ahead, try and long ball. But I wouldn't, if I was playing against him and I knew that I'm playing, I would say, sure.
It's not a long ball to his head. It's a long ball
to his feet. It's supposed to go to his feet. Yeah.
It's supposed to go over the fullback, right?
Yeah.
It's a valid game plan. It's just that I don't think he's been effective, right? And Reina, for some reason, can't get in the position where we are talking about that as a game plan, He drifts inside, and then he wants to play in the 10 position. We don't really play with the 10 anymore. It's not really I don't know. I think there needs to be some scrutiny of that position. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we still have Ibini on the roster. He hasn't seen a blade of grass this season yet. Could we try him there? I don't know. That's our problem position for me. 3 at the back this week, or stick with a 4 something?
No.
I had to put it out there. Someone was going to ask. Okay, how do you counter Columbus's threats? Do we sit deep as always, or do we try something different?
I think it's that Columbus is going to come at you aggressively. You know that there's going to be space behind the fullbacks. So your best option of countering them tactically is by getting ready to break into that space, making them more cautious, not giving them that opportunity necessarily. Let them play with the ball.
Which player or which part of the field are you saying break forward? Is it just Davies or is it Davies and Kamara?
Well, it's Davies and Kamara. Okay. I mean, Kamara is going to be, if you're going to boot it up the field, Kamara is going to be the one to get it to you.
He's your man.
But if you're playing it over the top into space, you shouldn't be playing it to Teixeira. You should be playing it to Davies.
Gideon, is there an argument for Breck Shea to start this game because of his goal that he scored, his build up that he can break into space? Is there that discussion to be had?
I think I don't want to. I'll say without kind of giving away my lineup too much, but I think you mentioned about Abidi. I think he deserves to play this game. He hasn't really. I think he only came on as a sub in the first game against Montreal. It's Shea. He's a different player at home and away, and I think he could play in Columbus. There's nothing wrong with that, but I would like to see being playing there just because tactically wise, he's a little bit faster than Shea. And I think he suits that right wing pretty well if we were to play Davies on the left.
Mm-hmm. Shea has long strides, though. He doesn't run, he gallivants.
But speaking of a player what about Hurtado as well?
Yeah, that's a valid. But you see, this is one of those things that we don't know as people who are outside of the team, right? How is Kamara's fitness levels, right?
Yeah.
If he was at 90%, I would sit him this game. And let Hurtado have a go.
Hurtado's also scored in Columbus before.
He only has one goal less than Kamara.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of Kamara, it'll be a uncomfortable return. It's not his first time going back to Columbus since the whole penalty thing. I actually watched that clip back just before the show just to remind myself the ins and outs of what was going on. Higuain is still there, so there might be something interesting. Those two players probably won't meet on the field much at any point, but Kamara has not minced his words, so to speak, regarding returning to Columbus to play for the Whitecaps. You guys worried that he might get carried away? Do we have to play him because he's been saying these things? Or is that kind of a way of him making sure he's in the team? That's probably too cynical. But what do you think? Expect fireworks, Gideon?
No, I think Kamara is a professional. He's been in the league for a long time. He knows when to put his head down and work, and I've seen that before. He sometimes as a fire player with the celebrations, then he'll make a statement. But I think honestly, if you're on a new team now in Vancouver, New England didn't really work out. But if you want to stay, run this team for a couple of years, and you want to show that you're really one of the better players in this Whitecaps team. And play well like one, at least you gotta put your head down and work and get those headers like Nick said, win those aerial battles, put the ball in the back of the net, go celebrate, but don't play fire, get a yellow card. Play your game, don't change your game just because something happened in the past like that.
But as far as player interview goes, this was pretty pointed. These guys are media trained to within an inch of their lives, right? And he said no love for Columbus was one of his quotes. If I was the commissioner, I'd probably move them to Vegas. I kind of had mixed feelings here listening to that, right? I'm a fan, first of all, so I'd want to, I think Columbus fans wouldn't be very happy if they heard that, right?
No, but I guess, that whole situation just left a really bad taste in his mouth.
Yeah.
With that organization.
But okay, if I was a Columbus fan, who would you back, Higuain is your penalty taker, and Kamara wants to take a penalty in a game that they were winning 3-1. Seems like not that big of a deal.
In a sense, I mean, if it was rec league soccer,
yeah,
who cares?
That's happened to us in our team, Nick.
Yeah, exactly. but I get it. It's professionals. There's money involved, and then it gets more complicated at that point.
That's true. Right? I didn't think from the goal bonus perspective. Well, okay, we've had a question from Rituro, not about Football Manager this week. He said, why should we have faith that a team that couldn't score at home against a weakened opponent will manage to score away at a full-strength opponent? And this sparked a debate in the Twitter timeline that seems to be happening every Twitter or Whitecaps Twitter feed that I see this week. My personal answer is because LA bunkered down and put 10 men behind the ball. Columbus won't do that, and that suits us way better. It's
Whitecaps judo, basically. We're gonna use the other team's momentum and wait against them.
It's a very good way to put it, actually. Gideon, any thoughts on the question from Rituro?
Yeah, I think honestly, for me, he has a fair point. Like I said on Twitter, it's a fair thing to say. Why should we have faith in this team? But we've seen it time and time again. Whenever the Whitecaps ever played well against a depleted team, we talked about it last week in the podcast. Everybody talks about it. There's never going to be a game where you're going to beat a depleted team 5-0. It's just not the mindset the players, have going into those games. Is they play to win, but they're not playing, like they're playing a full strength LA team. And I think, for me personally, just take a look at the Houston game earlier this year. A full strength Houston team, as we talked about, they didn't miss any players. That's why you have faith. They won a game you didn't expect them to win, and that's why I think Whitecaps fans should keep the faith in the team right now.
Mm-hmm. And soccer is a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
So whenever your games are low-scoring, there's a good chance for upset.
Okay. We'll talk. We're gonna go through our lineup like we always do, or what we think the lineup should be later. But interesting kind of trend we've been seeing is that Russell Teibert, I think he sat the last 3 games, right? Mm-hmm. No word of an injury. It is Vancouver Fashion Week, so maybe he's busy there.
Showing off a new haircut.
Maybe I do follow him on Twitter or something, and he wears weird clothes.
Fashionable, Joe. They're fashionable.
I don't think he's lost his place due to a performance or anything. Like, I think the first couple of times, I think in Atlanta, I understood why he was dropped, because we're playing 3-5-2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 3-5-1-1. Is this a game we see him back, or is it working without him?
I just feel like there's too many midfielders in front of him.
Felipe arriving was not good news.
I think that is what knocked him down the chart.
Yeah.
Just enough of a slot that he's no longer going to be seeing as many minutes as perhaps he should, because he's demonstrated that he can do it.
Yeah.
Gideon,
Teibert back in for you?
Yeah, I think it is. The reason I have written down that he missed the last 2 games is because of tactics. Honestly, as Nick said, the 3-5-2 plays into it. But I don't think they would have re-signed him if they were going to sit him on the bench.
Yeah.
Start him for the first game of the year, then sit him on the bench. I think he's here to play. And for sure, maybe Felipe or whoever is ahead of him on the depth chart. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't get to play. If you're signed to a contract extension, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And I think after last year, there's reason for disappointment. But this year, I know he's here to play. And we have different players now instead of just playing, say last year, Laba, we had been playing, in one role that he wasn't comfortable with.
But Ali Ghazal is back.
That can come in.
Ali Ghazal was on the bench against LA. Like, could that see Teibert fall even further down the pecking order?
Yeah, I feel like it will.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, because he had a great start,
yeah.
And I thought that he had put enough of a stamp to be like, hey, I can do everything these guys can do, know.
I can't remember him playing this well for more than a couple of games, so that's why I was surprised to see him dropped, really. Are the Caps getting a little bit too predictable on the road, or is it just a case of, like, predictable, but there's not much you can do about it kind of a thing?
I would go with your second option. Yeah. It's predictable, but guess what? It gets results.
Yeah. Barcelona are predictable, but
they get results. Yeah. If it gets a result, and it's on the road. MLS is really hard, I feel, to get points on the road because of the travel distance all the teams have to go through. Scheduling, the depth of the team, past your first 11 or 12 players, that you don't have that much depth, and usually road games are a good chance to experiment, try something new. So I think, sure, Whitecaps are predictable on the road, but who cares?
Gideon,
is it good that we're predictable or bad?
No, it's good. It's a good predictable. As Nick said, we're predictable. We're getting results, and that's the thing that matters. If we start losing games and we're predictable, then there's something wrong. But if you're predictable and you're playing the right style, and teams can't figure you out, then that's the right kind of predictable you want to be.
Or at least maybe they can figure you out, but they can't counter.
Yes.
Because a lot of what the Whitecaps rely on is that one mistake or 2 mistakes that other team makes.
Yeah.
And you can't get rid of those mistakes over, the course of a game. There's always going to be mistakes. And the Whitecaps are just better at, in a sense, taking their chances on the road. So
Waston's back this weekend. Who goes beside him? So
yeah, good question.
Mond has been okay.
Mm-hmm.
Aha has been good, better than, pretty good, I would say. My personal choice would be Waston and Aha if we're going with the two centre backs. Gideon, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be Waston and Mond.
Waston and Mond. Okay. I just did a quick height comparison in my head. They're all pretty tall, so we can't have like a big, small kind of a thing. No. Nick, who do you go with, Mond or?
I would agree with Gideon.
Okay.
Because I think that Waston and Mond had, they at least had some sort of chemistry. They had some sort of understanding, and they did well together. And if Aha is the Waston replacement, does it really make sense to play him with Waston?
No, I said Parker.
Or Parker,
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. But maybe he will.
Waston's not going anywhere. Right? He better not go anywhere.
Well,
he signed a contract
this World Cup, right?
Yeah, it's true.
You never know what happens.
Actually, he might be tired after the international games, and then he might sit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so quickly for our game plans. My game plan is get the ball to Davies over the top, and hopefully he can look for Kamara. That's my hope.
Predictable, and I would agree with that.
Okay. Gideon?
Yeah, sit back, counter-attack as we normally do.
Okay, I think to be, we're a good counter-attacking team. To be a great counter-attacking team, we need 2 threats. Right now we have 1. We have Davies who can do that. Kamara, you can throw paint at the wall and some of it'll stick. But I think we need, we need the other winger to really contribute if we're going to be, a great road team. Okay, just before we move on to the final part of the show, let's go through our lineups. In goal, Marinovic.
Absolutely.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, left back, we're going with De Jong.
Yeah.
Looked pretty good against LA.
Yeah.
Center back, we just had that discussion. I think it's going to be Waston and Aha, or I hope it's going to be Waston and Aha. Nick?
Waston and Mond. Yeah.
Gideon?
Yeah, I was going to say Waston and Mond just because Mond is a little bit less taller than Aha. I think they only have one real threat attacking in Zardes, so I think Waston and Mond need to be a little bit faster.
Okay. Right back, Nerwinski. I'm not sure on Franklin's fitness, but I think Nerwinski hasn't done anything to lose this
Nerwinski, yeah.
Okay. All right, so now it gets interesting in the central midfield. I went for a 4-2-3-1 instead of a 4-1-4-1 because you can match the shape defensively when you're playing a 4-2-3-1 against a 4-2-3-1. Instead of the 4-1-4-1 where you might have in the attacking midfield you might get outnumbered if you're coming back getting into shape. I went with Gazal and Juarez in central midfield.
I think Juarez definitely will be there, but
Gazal maybe not fitness wise.
Felipe maybe.
Did you guys like Felipe sitting deeper against LA?
I liked it because he can pick a pass.
Yeah. He can pick a key pass.
He can pick a key pass.
And Nick, did you have a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-2-3-1?
Yeah, I had a 4-2-3-1.
Okay. Gideon?
Yeah, 4-2-3-1.
Okay. And your central midfielders are?
Juarez and Tybert.
Oh, Tybert back in, hopefully. Attacking midfield, I had Felipe because Gazal was back there with Juarez. Attacking midfield for you, Nick?
I was going to put Reyna there.
Okay.
I know he can get out and run, and I hope, maybe putting him in the center might spark him a little bit,
Yeah.
Do you guys see the thing about Reyna on Instagram?
I think that was absolutely nothing. Was that the one where he was nothing personal, business as usual?
The week, the Monday of a game week.
Oh, really? Okay, that
was kind of weird.
That I didn't see. Okay. Who do you have in attacking midfield, Gideon? Felipe, okay. Left wing, Davies.
Yes.
And right wing, I put Reyna.
I put Shea,
okay.
Ibini.
Okay, good. Up front, Kamara.
Yeah.
Good. Gideon?
Yeah, Kamara, sit in next week.
Okay, that's a good idea, actually. You've heard what we have to say. Let's have a look at what's coming out from inside of the camp. Michael had a quick chance to have a chat with Jordon Mutch the other day at training. So let's have a quick listen in on Jordon Mutch chatting to Michael McCall.
Jordon, you've had a few weeks now to settle in. How do you feel you've settled into the team?
Yeah, I feel like I've settled in nicely. Been here a month. I'm enjoying every day. the more minutes and game time I've played, I'm starting to get used to the team, the players around me. Yeah, it's been great. It's been a good first month.
And you've had a couple of appearances on the road and then at home at the weekend there. You've had some long road trips to set off. You've got Columbus now coming up. I spoke to you when you first came here about the travel, but now that you've experienced it, how have you found that?
Yeah, it's just travel at the end of the day. We have enough time to prepare for the games, and we've got a great medical staff here to make sure our bodies are prepared and good, ready to go. Hopefully this is the last really long trip. We've had them quite early in a small space of time, but yeah, it's been fun. I'm enjoying travelling, seeing these different places and playing against these different teams.
Is there anything that you've seen so far that surprised you about MLS?
Yeah, just how even the teams are and how open it is to anyone can beat anyone, and I think really consistency is key in this league to do well.
And the atmospheres as well. I mean, Atlanta, not every stadium's going to be like that, but I mean that was a fantastic atmosphere. You've experienced the home crowd now. How do you compare that to what you used to back home?
The atmosphere in all the stadiums have been really good. I would say it's very similar. It's obviously a different atmosphere here in terms of the entertainment side of how it is. With the big screens, the loud noises, the horns that are going off, and all that kind of crazy stuff. But the atmosphere has been brilliant, and I really enjoy playing in front of the crowds, and especially at BC Place.
Is there anything that you're missing so far from back home?
Well, the weather's the same here, so
Yeah.
I'm not. To be honest, there's not much I'm missing from back home. Obviously, it's hard being away from family and friends, because you don't get to see them every day like I used to. But apart from that, I'm loving life in Vancouver.
Like when you were like a kid back in the UK, like, who did you grow up supporting? Who was your team back there?
I grew up playing for Derby County, so I obviously went to the Derby games and supported them, but my mum was a Man United fan, so I've always kind of had a little bit of United, but I'm more of a neutral now. I like just watching good football.
And are you keeping tabs on how Palace are doing this year?
Yeah, obviously I look at the results, but I'm focused on Vancouver Whitecaps, and I want to do my best here, and hopefully this team can do well this year.
What are you looking forward to, or what are you expecting heading into Columbus now at the weekend?
Hopefully that we're leaving with 3 points come Saturday, and that we put on a good performance.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time today, John.
Nice.
Cheers.
Hey, it's Stefan Runovic, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Okay, to our last section we go. It's the prediction game. So every week we each make 3 predictions, and you get a point if you get one of them right. Last week, Nick said that the Caps as a team would have 20 dribbles. They had 15 in the end. He said that there would be 1 goal before halftime. There was no goals at any point in that game. And he said that the team would have a pass accuracy of 80%. And they turned out to have 77%, but because there was no decimal point on the website I looked at, we gave it to him because it's within 2.5 or 3%. So 3%. That's a really impressive point there. Gideon said that Nerwinski would have 4 crosses. He had 6 crosses in the end. He said that the Caps would score a set piece. There was no goals. And that Aha or Mond would make an error. And there was no clear error that we could really see, so we didn't...
There's some debate.
there was a short debate about that Boateng chance, but I think Aha's only mistake was that he wasn't a foot shorter and a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So Gideon was 0 for 3 last week. I said that Kamara would hit the woodwork. He did not. I said that Sebastian Lletget would get a yellow card. That didn't happen either. I said that there would be less than 4 LA corners, and there was 3, so I got 1 point. So the season standings are myself at 5 points, Gideon with 4 points, and Nick with 3 points. So from the early season, it's really tightened up a little bit. So let's get your predictions for this week, Nick.
Okay, so I have Higuain will get 2 shots on target.
Okay.
Mond will win 5 aerial battles.
Okay.
And the Whitecaps as a team will have 22 tackles won.
Okay. Tackles 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Gideon?
Interesting. I have Mon gets a yellow.
Okay.
Kamara with 4 shots.
Okay.
And Marcel Dion with 3 crosses.
Good. All right, I'm going to go with De Jong yellow card. I think that Juarez will have a pass accuracy of around 85%.
Oh, wow.
And I think that... Oh, I'm coming up with these on the spot. I think that Felipe will have more than 1 key pass.
Ooh.
Going for Nick's key pass.
Key pass.
Title.
They're in now. Key passes are
in many ways, key passes are more fun than goals. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to the AFTN preview podcast. Let's let everyone know where they can find you on Twitter. Gideon.
Myself on Twitter at Gideon Hill 18.
And Nicolaas.
At Space Age Robot 56.
And you can find me at Joe Deasy Van. Thank you very much for listening to the show. If you have any questions for next week, please get in touch with us and enjoy the game.
When you're listening on some far-flung corner of the globe to the World Service of a Saturday afternoon, crackly reception, interference, cosy, marvellous. Somehow comforting, isn't it? You know, legendary names, fathers and sons on the terraces, cheesy peas at half-time, pint for dad, mum's at home making the tea. Everything's all right with the world, isn't it? Saturday afternoon is football.